Hey guys, Natalie Perez here. ICMI was kind enough to invite me to share some thoughts on where we are with our goals at this mid-year mark, and that gave me an opportunity to really give some thought to my own goals and where all of those stand at this point of the year. I feel like by now, most of us are at varying points between the momentum that we felt in January and the reality of everything that's happened since. Momentum is going to be a thing I'm going to mention a couple of times here. Some goals we knocked out of the park right away at the top of the year, and other goals may be stalled, and a few of them quietly disappeared. And let's normalize all of that. It's exactly what should happen, right? Some things fall off because they should never have made the list, and other things fall off because when we made the list, we were not counting on all of the life that was going to happen that could impact those goals. To me, this mid-year moment is less about pushing harder and more about alignment and reconnecting with what matters. Reassess what is working for you and be honest enough to realize maybe that goal is no longer relevant. This is the time to recalibrate. In preparation for this chat, I turned to my network on LinkedIn and I asked them, what gets in the way of sticking with your goals? The options were a lack of time, shifting priorities, lost motivation, and unclear or unrealistic goals. I expected shifting priorities to rank high, and it did. It took the lead and never let it go. In fact, about close to 70% of respondents chose that as the thing that most detracts them from getting through their goals. And so right behind that was lost motivation, and then came unclear goals. But interestingly, not a single person chose lack of time. And I thought that was surprising because constantly we hear about how busy everybody is and how there aren't enough hours in the day. And it turns out the one thing that we all agree on is that there are, in fact, enough hours in the day. And so that is one in the win column for us. But let's begin with the top challenge, and that was shifting priorities. This one, again, didn't surprise me. I'm sure most of you saw that coming. In many organizations, shifting priorities can even sound strategic, and sometimes it really is strategic, but often it's reflective of a lack of alignment, or worse, of a lack of commitment. We set a goal, and then something shinier comes along, something urgent comes along, or something easier or more difficult comes along, and then we pivot, and then we pivot again. And if you're a fan of the show Friends, I know you're all hearing the word pivot being screamed in your head by Ross. But we keep letting one thing get in front of the other, and then it's July, and now we've spent 6 months doing more circling than moving forward. This happens to me too, even with small goals, I find. I'll sit down, maybe to write something for ICMI. I'll open a research report, and 45 minutes have passed, and I find that I am deep into an article about cave houses in Spain, wondering, would I enjoy living in a cave house? Or worse, pricing them out. Distractions are everywhere, and they take focus away from our goals. And so a useful question to ask yourself after today's session, I think, is, are your goals truly anchored to what matters? Because when a goal is anchored, firmly tied to your vision or to your values or to a deeper sense of why, it becomes steady and it can hold when everything else is shifting around it. Gives you a reason to say no, by the way, when distractions show up disguised as better opportunities. Next up on the list was lost motivation, and I'll admit that I really didn't like this one. I hated seeing how many of us felt like we're losing motivation, but I understood it because, again, we're humans, right? Motivation fades. January barrels in, all full of promise, and then by March we're managing, and then by June we're questioning, and now Q3 is upon us, and we're wondering if we even still want what we thought we wanted in January. But we have to remember that motivation is not just a feeling. Motivation is fuel, and like all fuel, it will run out unless you actively replenish it. And so instead of asking, why am I not motivated? Maybe reframe the question and ask, what energizes me? What people or what progress markers can remind you that your effort still matters and that this is still a relevant and valuable goal? Often I think that we rely on looming deadlines or guilt to push us forward. I know I do. Sometimes I find that I place more pressure on myself than anybody else would place on me, but motivation is far more resilient when it's built on momentum. There's that word again, right? And built on small wins that you can string together and visible progress that you can celebrate along the way. And I think a key is, instead of waiting to feel motivated, we need to build systems that keep us connected, systems that keep us connected to our purpose for this goal. systems that let us track the progress of that goal. In some cases, that'll involve other people. Maybe you can set up quarterly goals that are tied to metrics that matter and pair that with peer accountability circles, just small check-ins with other people that keep those goals front and center. Or if this is relevant to you, a monthly check-in with your manager to revisit why that work still matters and why this goal is still relevant. This is still valuable. This is a really great time to kind of check in on all of those things right now. These structures will make motivation part of a rhythm. It's not a requirement for getting started. Lastly, we come to the least selective response, and that is unclear or unrealistic goals. And I think that more of us are stuck here than we realize, but maybe we really can't pinpoint it until we hear it. We set goals like be more present or grow the business, which sound great, but are not specific enough to act on. Or we set goals that sound achievable on paper, but are not supported in practice. They don't have time. They don't have budget. They don't have a real plan. And so something for us to consider here is if your goal doesn't include a behavior and a timeline and a constraint, it's probably not a goal. That's just a thing you want to do. But a real goal is specific and it's visible and trackable. And most of all, it is realistic. This midpoint of the year is a really good time to reflect and again, recommit to those goals. There's still a lot of year left, you guys. It's not too late to get traction. And I think that 3 questions I would encourage you to sit with over the next couple of days as you think through your goals are, first, what has gone well for you? What went better than expected even? What wins, big or small, are there that you had that are worth building upon? The second question is, what has been harder than you thought? Maybe the obstacle is an external one. Very common in organizations. Resources, timing, those shifting priorities I was just talking about a minute ago. But just as often, those obstacles are internal. They are rooted in perfectionism and imposter syndrome and decision fatigue. There are a lot of things that stand as obstacles in our way, and it's good to understand what those are if we are going to get to the other side of them. The third and last question that I think you need to consider is, are your current goals still right for you, or are they just familiar? Do not chase something because it's been on your list for a while and now that's just a horse you're backing. Goals evolve with you. They're not static. So make sure that that's happening. And once you have taken the time to answer all of these questions for yourself and you reset your focus, now it's time to protect it. You have a few months left of the year, but you have to be laser focused on these recommitted goals. Everything is going to try to pull your time and energy. And so how is your goal going to survive? Do you have guardrails? Do you have support systems or something that keeps it top of mind? And if motivation is low, remember this. Motivation is born in motion. It's action. Start with that one small step. It's the proverbial one foot in front of the other. Momentum will kick in at some point and take you the rest of the way. But sometimes the action has to precede the motivation. And by the way, if you're a frameworks person, consider visiting SMART goals. I know lots of you guys know what this is, but for those of you that do not, SMART is an acronym that SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. May sound academic, but there's tons of research that shows that the clarity associated with setting SMART goals improves their outcomes. The results of the LinkedIn poll really underscored for me this point. We are not fighting the clock. We are fighting, we all said we have time, right? So what are we fighting? Distraction, doubt, disconnection from what matters. Those are the things that are getting in our way. But the good news about all of those are those are things that we can change and influence. And so as we head into the second half of the year, let's focus on clarity and alignment and intentionality. Be clear on where you stand. Align your goals to what truly matters, and then pursue them with real intention. You ever seen a dog with a bone? That's going to be us with our goals for the rest of the year, you guys. Second half of the year is wide open, and what we choose now, what we really, really choose now, is going to define how it ends. Good luck, you guys. I'll see you soon.